egg, 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 egg,
Hi! Hi gang, hello! I hope you're all doing good. It's me, real Zoe, with my face and everything. Hi hi!
Hi.
I hope you're all doing good. I hope you've had a nice day and you're excited to read a book. It's been, I feel like every time that I do a Facecam book reading stream, it's been a while. But it's been a while because the book that we were reading, The King in Yellow, had to go into a box because I was getting a new floor laid, so I had to put all my stuff into boxes and things. And then I didn't know what box it was in and blah, blah, blah. But I got it now, so we're all good. I do feel that I look a particularly good kind of way today. I gotta be honest. Ready to play Maximo, the game that drives you insane. I mean, The King in Yellow. We'll be playing Maximo as well. It's very important. It is, after all, the Zelda killer, so we gotta get in on this, you know. But yes, I hope you're all doing good. I did my eyeliner especially thick today, and I got myself those little like skeleton mouth lines on the mouth, you know. I think this is a fucking look, and I'm thinking like this might just be like permanent, you know. I'm thinking I might just start doing this like every day, cause this is nice, you know. It's Peem is the thing about it. Hot Stuff Queen is about all name. So it is. Can you put a ray on your pointy finger? No reason. Why? Well, sure. I don't see what that could be about. There we go. But yes, I hope you're all doing well. If you weren't here for the first King in Yellow stream, that's okay-ish. It's mostly okay. It's an anthology, so it's a collection of stories that are loosely connected, but I don't think it's not like an interconnected narrative, you know? As far as I know. But I haven't finished reading it yet, so who's to say? Ow. So if you haven't seen the first one, that's okay. That's fine. Don't worry about it. It's a fucking look. It's a fucking look. I really feel, you know, I feel like I've been coming into my own a little bit more, physically, visually speaking, fashionably, etc. You know, I feel like I'm getting there. I'm finding myself. I get better at makeup. I become more secure in who I am physically. You know, things that you can change. It's great. I'm happy. I should do that makeup too. It's nice. I use just like eyeliner pencil for the mouth lines. Simple as that. Yeah. Do you have anything else that I want to talk about right now? I don't think so. I think we're just good to start going. But first, we gotta do the eggs, of course. If you have but one little point, you can already spend it on an egg that we're gonna put right over here. Oh! Hey, Jackie! Yay! Hi, everyone! Hi. In my immortal civilization, no prep jumps for the beef. Hi, gang! Hi, Jackie, such a lantern. Thank you so much for the raid. Thank you so much to all your viewers. Hi. I hope you're all doing good. What did you drew? You worked on Halloween commissions. That's fun, because I've got my makeup done for Halloween, and I'm reading a scary story. Not for Halloween, just in general, but it's fitting now. How do you guys like my makeup? Do you think it's nice? I think it's nice. I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud of being proud of me. It's nice, you know? The makeup is good. I like the makeup, thank you. I've been skeleton cursed. I'm Skelly Queen. That's my new alt. It's so funny. Like, my raid message should have been skeleton curse. But then what would have happened? Because I already got skeleton curse. Would I become twice the skeleton? But one thing that I wanted to say is, like, at some point before I started VTubing, when I was considering it, someone said to me, I don't know if you should do that because you have to be a very emotive person, and you know, you have to like really like act a lot as a VTuber. And I was like, I'll be fucking fine, don't fucking worry about it. And I am more emotive as me than as her. You know what I mean? I mean, like, she does me, of course, but she doesn't have the intricacies of my face, and the hand tracking still leaves stuff to be desired. Even though I have got it better than most VTubers, somehow I still don't know how I did that. If there's one thing you are, boss, it's a motive. And if there's one thing that I've got, it's a motive. Go live again, second try. Yeah, we'll get the skeleton curse raid message. You got more facial toggles than Gauntlet Queen. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't have the one where where the eyes go all glitchy, I suppose. And I haven't figured out how to do a 3 mouth yet. No, I don't know. I'm the fucking killer! I've got a motive! The motive is I hate politicians and corporations. But no, as I was saying earlier, like, I like the eyeliner that I've got going right now so much. And honestly, the lines around the mouth are also just really doing it for me. That I'm thinking I'm just gonna keep it going. I'm just gonna make this like my default makeup look, you know? Cause this is fucking nice. You hearing this, Prince? Prince, you see? It's like that image of Spider-Man and Pinkie Pie like looking over the side of a building and Spider-Man going, you seeing this shit, Pinkie Pie? But it's you and Prancing Queen. Yeah. So eggs. If you have one little point, you can already redeem it for an egg, which we're gonna put over here. And we're gonna start right now. So, wow, gosh golly gee, the first egg comes to us from Esteemed Jester. Triple Space. Kira Cat. Melzanoff. Maple QB. Mecha Fox Girl. Just Some Trans Girl, which again, there is never just some trans girl. Every trans girl is so special. Where was I? Polar Stars. Green Clong. And Such a Lantern. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for the starting eggs. Cool. And another sippy. Cool. So, book time for book. This one. Top 3 eggs get to be made in an omelet. Bye bye, Trip. See, goodbye, Trip. You're gonna be made into an omelet and die, I guess. So, this is The King in Yellow, if you are not familiar with it. It is a highly influential horror novel, specifically the kind of horror, like cosmic horror kind of thing, you know, like the unknowable horror. It is very cool, interesting, and spooky. And every chapter has this little pre thing about Carcosa, or specifically about... Okay, The King in Yellow is a play within the story The King in Yellow. So before every chapter, there's a little excerpt from The King in Yellow, the play. And it is, well, like the first story they read, I liked it. It was nice. But that bit at the beginning, that was really nice. That little excerpt from the play. Oh my god, it was so nice. And it's funny because the whole point of The King in Yellow is that if you were to read it or see it performed, if anyone could even get that far, you will go insane. And so it's really funny to me that out of that entire story of like 40 pages, the thing that stuck with me the most was The King in Yellow, the play. Interesting. Fun. So we are going to read it, but of course we can't be listening to fun, upbeat spooky music, but we gotta listen to some actual spooky stuff. Can you put a ray near the song title where it lines up with the other ray for no particular reason? Am I gonna be blasted in the middle by two rays? Let's see, okay, just gotta line up. So it's like over here. There you go. Can I get a Sonic Adventure 2 style recap of the parts I missed? I would totally give you that. If I remembered who the character was exactly, and two, I remembered all of the parts from the previous story, which I sorted out. Oops. I mean, I mostly remember it. It was like a guy, and he was like pretty well off, and his brother's in the army, but it was a sister, because we made it sister, so it could be Yuri. And he had read The King in Yellow and became obsessed with it, and then it was like, wow, I'm some fucking guy in the attic with a cat that wants to kill me, and I'm like, and I'm at the helm of the King in Red religion or something, and then he tried to kill his brother because he was like, I'm supposed to be the king, not my sister, sorry. And he tried, but he failed, and then he went to the old man, and he got killed by his cat, and then he went to jail or something. Yay! What an awesome story. It was better. You had to be there. Now let's see. What do you call those things? Hearth. I wanna have like some scary music with like a hearth in the background, you know? Let's see about this one. You're not even music. Why are you all cozy? I literally said scary background music. And they're all like, oh, cozy little music. Oh, cozy scary music. That's not right, dude. Okay, wait. You guys aren't hearing it. What the hell? Hold on. Why isn't it? Hold on. There we go. Okay. Does this sound good, gang? This sounds fine, I guess. I don't know, but the start, I didn't like the start. Hold on. Should really have picked up a playlist before I started, huh? Oh well. What about this one? Wait, hold on. I saw one that said Victorian. Okay. This is the playlist that I used last time, so that's perfect. Oh yes. Oh, this is it. Perfect. This is my type of spooky music. So, let's see. Let's find story number 2. Let me find the index. Let me struggle to find the index. I can't fucking find it. I'm just gonna hold on. I found the little I found the little piece of the King Yellow play, and I like it so much. So I'm gonna read it to you guys again as like a little introduction. Even though we'll get another piece when we get to the second story. But for now, along the shore, the cloud waves break. The twin suns sink beneath the lake. The shadows lengthen in Carcosa. Strange is the night where black stars rise, and strange moons circle through the skies. But stranger still is lost Carcosa. Songs that the Hyades shall sing, where flap the tatters of the king, must die unheard in dim Carcosa. Song of my soul, my voice is dead. Die though, unsung as tears unshed, shall dry and die in lost Carcosa. Music is loud! That's not nice. It's probably because I'm not talking too loudly when I'm doing that. Anyway, thanks for letting me know. I'll turn it down. There you go. The piano's kind of banging. It is banging. It is nice, but if it's a bit loud, thank you for letting me know. Let me know if it's still loud, of course. And hi, my Bunshine. Thanks for the egg. There we go. And hello, Random Rings. Hello. Also, hello, Freezing Kaiju. Yes, I'm so real. Search. Prepare reputations. The Mask. That's the next one, I believe. Looks to be a lot shorter, so we can probably knock out more than one story today. Ray on the middle right, in line with the top left Ray. No reason. I wonder... sure, I guess. I don't know what the point of this is, but... okay. If that's the Sonic redeems that you want to do. I realize now that when you've got a play, sometimes you have dialogue, and dialogue in a playwright isn't written like normal dialogue. It's just like a Homestuck chat log, you know, or just any other chat log, I guess. Name of person who said it, thing they say, name of person who said it, and that doesn't work as well if you are reading it out loud, I suppose. I wonder how they do that in like an audiobook version of the King in Yellow. In any case, there's a little bit of dialogue from the King in Yellow Act 1, Scene 2. You, sir, should unmask, says Camilla. Indeed, says the stranger. Indeed, it's time. We all have laid aside disguise, but you. I wear no mask. No mask? No mask, says Camilla, terrified, aside to Casilda. Ooh! Man who wears no mask, but apparently still seems to wear a mask. So the second story is called The Mask. Here we go. Although I knew nothing of chemistry, I listened fascinated. Picked up an Easter lily, which Genevieve had brought that morning from Notre Dame, and dropped it into the basin. Instantly, the liquid lost its crystalline clearness. For a second, the lily was enveloped in a milk-white foam, which disappeared, leaving the fluid opalescent. No mask, dude, it's cold outside. Which disappeared, leaving the liquid opalescent. Changing tints of orange and crimson played over the surface, and then what seemed to be a ray of pure sunlight struck through from the bottom where the lily was resting. At the same time, he plunged his hand into the basin and drew out the flower. "There is no danger," he explained. "If you choose the right moment, that golden ray is the signal." He held the lily toward me, and I took it in my hand. It had turned to stone, to the purest marble. "You see," he said, "it is without a flaw. What sculptor would reproduce it?" The marble was white as snow, but in its depths the veins of the lily were tinged with palest azure, and a faint flush lingered deep in its heart. "Don't ask me the reason for that," he smiled, noticing my wonder. "I have no idea why the veins and heart are tinted, but they always are. Yesterday I tried one of Genevieve's goldfish. There it is." The fish looked as if sculptured in marble, but if you held it to the light, the stone was beautifully veined with a faint blue, and from somewhere within came a rosy light like the tint which slumbers in an opal. I looked into the basin. Once more it seemed filled with clearest crystal. "If I should touch it now?" I demanded. "I don't know," he replied, "but you had better not try." "There is one thing I'm curious about," I said, "and that is where the ray of sunlight came from." "It looked like a sunbeam, true enough," he said. "I don't know, it only comes when I immerse any living thing. Perhaps," he continued, smiling, "perhaps it is the vital spark of the creature escaping to the source from whence it came." This sounds like Momodore Reverie Under the Moonlight music. Then that game has very nice music, because this is very nice. I like this kind of music. That is a game that I've had on a long list of games that I want to play at some point. So if it's got music like this, that makes it a little bit more enticing. I saw he was mocking and threatened him with a Mailstick, which is a light stick with a padded leather ball at one end, held against work by a painter or signwriter to support and steady the brush hand. I love to learn. Buddy is going to a party breathing on everyone with his gills? Maybe. If that stranger is the king in yellow, maybe he's got gills. I don't know, he's some sort of like eldritch monstrosity, right? Right? Well, don't tell me if you know, actually, because I don't know yet. Anyway. Stay to lunch. Genevieve will be here directly. I saw her going to early mass, I said, and she looked as fresh and sweet as that lily before you destroyed it. Do you think I destroyed it? Said Boris gravely. We've got a name. His name is Boris. Destroyed, preserved, how can we tell? We sat in the corner of a studio near his unfinished group of the Fates. He leaned back on the sofa, twirling a sculptor's chisel and squinting at his work. By the way, he said, I have finished painting up that old academic Ariadne, and I suppose it will have to go to the saloon. It's all I've ready this year, but after the success of the Madonna brought me, I feel ashamed to send a thing like that. The Madonna, an exquisite marble for which Genevieve had said, had been the sensation of last year's saloon. I looked at the Ariadne. It was a magnificent piece of technical work, but I agreed with Boris that the world would expect something better of him than that. Still, it was impossible now to think of finishing in time for the saloon, that splendid, terrible group half shrouded in the marble behind me. The Fates would have to wait. Presumably referring to the Fates from Greek myth. We were proud of Boris Ivain. Y-V-A-I-N. Ivain? I'm gonna say Ivain. We claimed him that he claimed us on the strength of his having been born in America, although his father was French and his mother was Russia. Everyone in the Beaux Arts called him Boris, and yet there were only two of us whom he addressed in the same familiar way, Jack Scott and myself. Perhaps my being in love with Genevieve had something to do with his affection for me. Ivain. Sounds like Ivan. Yeah, okay, Ivan. Cool. This is funny. we have not had any pronouns for the protagonist the entire time, and it being first, spoken from the first person, my mind goes, this is about a woman. I'm a woman. This is about a woman. And so, Genevieve, woman, perhaps my being in love with Genevieve. Ah! Yuri, very good. Had something to do with his affection for me. Not that it had ever been acknowledged between us, but after all was settled, and she had told me with tears in her eyes that it was Boris whom she loved, I went over to his house and congratulated him. Perhaps not Yuri. But you never know, maybe we'll, get real jealous of Boris and kill him. And then we can have real bad toxic Yuri. Some good ass yandere shit, which why would you be into that? Never gotten it. The beautiful G Queen, thank you. Hope you're having a good evening. I am. I'm enjoying the story so far. We claimed him. How very Yuri of you to say. I wonder if there was a congratulate him. The perfect cordiality of that interview did not deceive either of us. I always believed, although to one at least, it was a great comfort. I do not think he and Genevieve ever spoke of the matter together, but Boris knew. Genevieve was lovely. The Madonna-like purity of her face might have been inspired by the Sanctus in Gonad's Mass. Okay. But I was always glad that she changed that mood for what we called her April maneuvers. She was often as variable as an April day. In the morning, grave, dignified and sweet. At noon, laughing, capricious. At evening, whatever one least expected. I preferred her so, rather than in that Madonna-like tranquility which stirred the depths of my heart. I was dreaming of Genevieve when he spoke again. What do you think of my discovery, Alec? Ooh! Once upon a VCR. Fun name! Hello, thanks so much for following. I forgot that word is banned here. Yeah, that's important. Oh, that's so good. Lesbians who fall in love with gayant women are more powerful than God. Mecha Fox Girl, I love how you replaced that word. That is so. I love gayants. That's so good. What do you think of my discovery, Alec? I think it wonderful. I shall make no use of it, beyond satisfying my own curiosity so far as may be, and the secret will die with me. It would be rather a blow to sculpture, would it not? We painters lose more than we ever gain by photography. Microsoft. Whomst could ever be gay? Not me. But thanks so much for subscribing, Michael Server. Thank you.
Egg.
I love this. I think this is very interesting. We have here a sculptor who, through the work of alchemy, can instantly turn any object into a perfect sculpture. And yet says, I'm not gonna use this for sculpture, though. I'm not gonna actually display this, though. That's like, it feels somewhat familiar. And then, it's like, oh, I can just put a thing in a thing and have a picture. But no, Boris is like, but that'd be shitty, though. So I'm not doing that. That would destroy the craft. Based. Dude, Robert W. Chambers, you predicted AI, generative AI. Good job. Local artist refuses to use AI art. We stand. Mike loves rabbit. And random rings. Thank you both for the eggs. There we go. Boris nodded, playing with the edge of the chisel. This new vicious discovery would corrupt the world of art. No, I shall never confide the secret to anyone, he said slowly. It would be hard to find anyone less informed about such phenomena than myself, But of course I had heard of mineral springs so saturated with silica that the leaves and twigs which fell into them were turned to stone after a time. I dimly comprehended the process, how the silica replaced the vegetable matter atom by atom, and the result was a duplicate of the object in stone. This, I confess, had never interested me greatly, and as for the ancient fossil thus produced, they disgusted me. Boris, it appeared, feeling curiosity instead of repugnance, had investigated the subject and had accidentally stumbled on a solution which, attacking the immersed object with a ferocity unheard of, in a second did the work of years. This was all I could make out of the strange story he had just been telling me. He spoke again after a long silence.
I am always frightened when I think of what I found. Scientists would go mad over the discovery. It was so simple, too, it discovered itself. When I think of that formula, that new element, precipitated in metallic scales.
What new element?
Oh, I haven't thought of naming it, and I don't believe I ever shall. There are enough precious metals now in the world to cut throats over.
I pricked my ears. Have you struck gold, Boris?
No, better. See here, Alec.
Actually, for our purposes of keeping the main character a woman, I'm gonna call her Alice, which is my second name as a coincidence.
No, better. But see here, Alice.
He laughed, starting up.
You and I have all we need in this world. Ah, how sinister and covetous you look already.
I laughed too, and told him I was devoured by the desire for gold, and we had better talk of something else. So, when Genevieve came in shortly after, we had turned our backs on alchemy. That new element, King in Yellium. Can you put a ray on the top left ray so it lines up with the other rays? No ulterior motive. Of course. Of course there is no ulterior motive. I have placed enough of these to know that nothing bad is going to happen to me. Nothing at all. Genevieve was dressed in silvery grey from head to foot. The light glinted along the soft curves of her fair hair as she turned her cheek to Boris. Then she saw me and returned my greeting. She had never before failed to blow me a kiss from the tips of her white fingers, and I promptly complained of the omission. She smiled and held out her hand, which dropped almost before it had touched mine. Then she said, looking at Boris, "You must ask Alice to stay for luncheon." This also was something new. She had always asked me herself until today.
I did,
said Boris shortly. And you said yes, I hope? She turned to me with a charming, conventional smile. I might have been an acquaintance of the day before yesterday. I made her a low bow. Oh, French. This is French. This will be fun. J'avais bien l'honneur, madame. Translated from French, I had the honor, ma'am. But refusing to take up our usual bantering tone, she murmured a hospitable commonplace and disappeared. Boris and I looked at each other. I had better go home, don't you think? I asked.
Hanged if I know,
he replied frankly. While we were discussing the advisability of my advisability, I got it. Advisability of my departure, Genevieve reappeared in the doorway without her bonnet. She was wonderfully beautiful, but her color was too deep and her lovely eyes were too bright. She came straight up to me and took my arm. Luncheon is ready. Was I cross, Alice? I thought I had a headache, but I have... Oh, sorry. I thought I had a headache, but I haven't. Come here, Boris. And she slipped her other arm through his. Alice knows that after you, there is no one in the world whom I like as well as I like her. So if she sometimes feels snubbed, it won't hurt her. More French. À la bonne heure, I cried, which means to happiness. Who says there are no thunderstorms in April?
Are you ready?
Chanted Boris. Aye, ready. and arm in arm we raced into the dining hall, scandalizing the servants. After all, we were not so much to blame. Genevieve was 18, Boris was 23, and I not quite 21. These characters are younger than I thought they were. I guess I'm so used to stories like this having like people in their like late 20s, early 30s as protagonists. At least that's what I think. I don't know. Some work. This is chapter 2. This short story has chapters. Some work that I was doing about this time on the decorations for Genevieve's boudoir kept me constantly at the quaint little hotel in the Rue Saint-Cécile. Cecile. It's French. I don't know. Toxic polyuria, finally! Dude, what a good story already! Boris and I, in those days, labored hard, but as we pleased, which was... Woo! Mamma Mamma Boris and I, in those days, labored hard, but as we pleased, which was fitfully, and we all three, with Jack Scott, idled a great deal together. Who is Jack Scott? Jack Scott was like the first person that we got a full name for, and we've heard nothing about them.
Like, are they scary? Are we gonna find out that they're like really scary? Yeah, maybe they're not even like a human. Maybe there's some sort of a ghostly apparition. Maybe there's something scary that lives in a painting, or only inside a book or something. I'm so curious to find out who Jack Scott is.
How far into the book are we? This is the second story out of 11. Or was it 10? I think it was 10. 10. It's 10. Most versions of the book have 9 stories. For some reason, they omit one of the stories. This one has all 10 of them, which is it was insanity all on its own trying to find a good copy of the book nowadays. A lot of them have a lot of changes, or again, they don't have the 10th story in them. But this one, the Heathen edition, is the only one I could find that had all 10 of them. So we're the second story, second chapter, which is on page 45. Yes. It's weird hearing Uwu not coming out of the one from the video game. It is so funny to me, as many of you will know.
I can do a really deep voice if I want to.
And it is very funny to be talking to people face to face, and then for whatever reason do that, and then they're like, "What the fuck?" It's very funny. Even with like my parents, it surprises them. Arterial Red, thank you very much for your egg.
Egg.
All right. Dr. Rudy G. Numpet, as well as Lucina of Stardust. Thank you both for your eggs. Lucina, you're starting the second egg stick. Very nice. There we go. Your deep voice always just sounds like you doing a deep voice. It's not like surprising to me. Yeah, when you get used to it, you know. Been enjoying your reading? I'm glad. I've been enjoying my reading also, as in I enjoy doing the reading. But I'm glad that you're enjoying listening to it. I hope it's nice for everyone. I don't know. One quiet afternoon, I had been wandering alone over the house, examining curios, prying into odd corners, bringing out sweetmeats and cigars from strange hiding places, and at last I stopped in the bathing room. Boris, all over clay, stood there washing his hands. The room was built of rose-colored marble, excepting the floor, which was tessellated in rose and grey. Tessellating is a mosaic of small tiles or repeating shapes, spotted like a chessboard. This is nice so far. I just got here like 7 minutes ago, maybe more. I'm glad you're enjoying it, even though you're only such a fresh face. I've got several more streams where I read books, including Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, on my YouTube channel. Whoa, wow! You can find all my VODs there and stuff. Also, the first King Yellow story, of course. In the center was a square pool, sunken below the surface of the floor. Steps led down into it. Sculptured pillars supported a frescoed ceiling. Hold on, this is... Where are they right now? This is a fucking crazy ass house. You have a washing room that's essentially just a fucking bathhouse with a frescoed ceiling. Are you fucking kidding me? How rich are these people? A delicious marble cupid appeared to have just alighted on his pedestal at the upper end of the room. The whole interior was Boris's work and mine. I guess they are sculptors and painters and stuff, so that makes sense. Kind of. No, because where did you get the money? Anyway. I mean, it's a cosmic horror novel, so of course protagonists are gonna be rich. Did, what's his face? Lovecraft didn't invent that. Boris, in his working clothes of white canvas. Ow. Actually, not Al. I'm fine. That's over. It's her. I'm fine. Scraped the traces of clay and red modeling wax from his handsome hands, and cocked over his shoulder with the cupid. I see you. I mean, I see you. Wait, no, this is like a young guy. What was he, like 23, 22? Whatever. I picked the voice. I'm sticking with it.
I see you,
he insisted.
Don't try to look the other way and pretend not to see me. You know who made you, little humbug.
It was always my role to interpret Cupid's sentiments in these conversations, and when my turn came, I responded in such a manner that Boris seized my arm and dragged me towards the pool, declaring he would duck me. Next instant, he dropped my arm and turned pale.
Good God,
he said.
I forgot the pool is full of the solution.
I shivered a little and dryly advised him to remember better where he had stored the precious liquid. Why would you put that in the fucking pool in the washing room? Genevieve is gonna go in there and become a statue. Oh, and then we're gonna bring the statue to the saloon. That's probably what's gonna happen. Back before late-stage capitalism rewrote society, you could have a house like that with one full-time salary as a postal worker. I suppose that might be so. I hadn't thought to search for a stream of someone reading until just today. Didn't know they existed, but I figured when I searched that they must. And so they do. They actually have like a books category now on Twitch, which is nice. I think they also have one like for model kits and Lego and stuff. Like, I think they call it just like building and Lego or something. I forgot what it's called exactly. Like last month or so they added that. And this is my first time making use of it. Before this, I just had to make do with the just chatting tag. It was a dire times, chat. Cosmic horror protects have to be rich, because the working class is already dealing with the eldritch horror of capitalism. Exactly. We just wouldn't be as affected. We would go like, yeah, I face this kind of shit every day. In heaven's name, why do you keep a small lake of that gruesome stuff here of all places? I asked.
I want to experiment on something large,
he replied. On me, for instance?
Ah, that came too close for jesting, but I do want to watch the action of that solution.
Wait, who's talking this? Yeah, him.
Of that solution on a more highly organized living body. There is that big white rabbit.
No! Jody! Jody, run! Jody's in danger, chat. Someone has to warn her. He said, following me into the studio. Jack Scott. Okay, here we go. We're gonna learn who Jack Scott is. Jick Scott, wearing a paint-stained jacket, came wandering in, appropriated all the Oriental's sweet meats he could lay his hands on. Dude, appropriation. Looted the cigarette case, and finally he and Boris disappeared together to visit the Luxembourg Gallery, where a new silver bronze by Rodin and a landscape of Monet's were claiming the exclusive attention of artistic France. I went back to the studio and resumed my work. It was a Renaissance screen, which Boris wanted me to paint for Genevieve's boudoir. But the small boy who was unwillingly dawdling through a series of poses for it today refused all bribes to be good. He never rested an instant in the same position, and instead of 5 minutes I had as many different outlines of the little... And inside of 5 minutes I had as many different outlines of the little beggar. "Are you posing, or are you executing a song and dance, my friend?" I inquired.
"Whichever monsieur pleases,"
he replied with an angelic smile. Of course I dismissed him for the day, and of course I paid him for the full time, that being the way we spoil our models. After the young imp had gone, I made a few perfunctory daubs at my work, but was so thoroughly out of humor that it took me the rest of the afternoon to undo the damage I had done, so at last I scraped my palette, stuck my brushes in a bowl of black soap, and strolled into the smoking room. I really believed that accepting Genevieve's apartments, no room in the house was so free from the perfume of tobacco as this one. It was a queer chaos of odds and ends, hung with threadbare tapestry. A sweet-toned old spinet in good repair stood by the window. There were stands of weapons, some old and dull, others bright and modern, festoons of Indian and Turkish armor over the mantel, 2 or 3 good pictures in the pipe rack. It was here that we used to come for new sensations in smoking. I doubt if any type of pipe ever existed which was not represented in the rack. When we had selected one, we immediately carried it somewhere else and smoked it, for the place was, on the whole, more gloomy and less inviting than any in the house. But this afternoon, the twilight was very soothing, and the rugs and skins on the floor looked brown and soft and drowsy. The big couch was piled with cushions. I found my pipe and curled up there for an unaccustomed smoke in the smoking room. I had chosen one with a long, flexible stem, and lighting it fell to dreaming. After a while it went out, but I did not stir. I dreamed on and presently fell asleep. Wow, Cthulhu. Anyways, back to work. As a thought, can we move this next Thursday? I gotta work late.
Oh, sorry.
Oh wait, I can think of one working class cosmic horror story, but I can't say without spoiling that game. Well, now I'm curious if it's one I know. I mean, I can think of working class... Oh, cosmic horror. I mean, I can think of one that you might be talking about. But yes, you would not be able to say that without spoiling it, I suppose. Anyway. I awoke to the saddest music I'd ever heard. The room was quite dark, and I had no idea what time it was. A ray of moonlight silvered one edge of the old spinet, and the polished wood seemed to exhale the sounds as perfume floats above a box of sandalwood. Someone rose in the darkness, and came away weeping quietly, and I was a fool to cry out, "Genevieve!" She dropped at my voice, and I had time to curse myself while I made a light and tried to raise her from the floor. She shrank away with a murmur of pain. She was very quiet and asked for Boris. I carried her to the divan. I don't know what that is. Some sort of chair. Perhaps one of those fainting couches. I'm pretty sure you know the game I mean. Yeah, I guess maybe. Actually, I think I can think of multiple. But now I'm thinking of one that is more so, maybe more applicable. So I'm thinking that's the one you're thinking of, and I'm not gonna say what it is. So to remain a fun little secret for both of us, and for everyone else involved. I carried her to the divan and went to look for him, but he was not in the house, and the servants were gone to bed. They've got servants. They're clearly rich people. Perplexed and anxious, I hurried back to Genevieve. She lay where I had left her, looking very white. I can't find Boris nor any of the servants, I said. I know, she answered faintly. Boris has gone to Epps with Mr. Scott. I do not remember when I sent you for him just now. But he can't get back in that case before tomorrow afternoon, and... Are you hurt? Did I frighten you into falling? What an awful fool I am, but I was only half awake. Boris thought you had gone home before dinner. Do please excuse us for letting you stay here all this time. I have had a long nap, I laughed, so sound that I did not know whether I was still asleep or not when I found myself staring at a figure that was moving toward me and called out your name. Have you been trying the old spinet? You must have played very softly. I would tell 1,000 more lies worse than that one to see the look of relief that came into her face. She smiled adorably and said in her natural voice, Alice, I tripped on that wolf's head, and I think my ankle is sprained. Please call Mary, and then go home. I did as she bade me, and left her there when the maid came in. Chapter 3. At noon next day, when I called, I found Boris walking restlessly about his studio.
Genevieve is asleep just now, he told me. The sprain is nothing, but why should she have such a high fever? The doctor can't account for it, or else he will not.
As in, like, he can't? Or maybe he can, but he just chooses not to. Genevieve has a fever? I asked.
I should say so, and has actually been a little lightheaded at intervals all night. The idea.
Gay!
Little Genevieve, without a care in the world, and she keeps saying her heart's broken and she wants to die.
But no! She needs her girlfriend. Ray on the bottom right, in line with top left. Just cause. We're having fun. Keep the train coming, you know, why not?
Gay!
My own heart stood still. Boris leaned against the door of his studio, looking down. His hands in its pockets, his kind, keen eyes clouded. A new line of trouble drawn over the mouth's good mark that made the smile. The maid had orders to summon him the instant Genevieve opened her eyes. We waited, and Boris, growing restless, wandered about, fussing with modeling wax and red clay. Suddenly he started for the next room.
Come and see my rose-colored bath full of death,
he cried. What? Jesus Christ! What a fucking thing to say! Oh yeah, Scare Cat. Okay, we were thinking about it, yeah.
Nice of the king in yellow to invite us to the petrification pool. Gay Genevieve?
Is it death? I asked, to humor his mood.
You are not prepared to call it life, I suppose,
he answered. As he spoke, he plucked a solitary goldfish, squirming and twisting out of its globe.
We'll send this one after the other, wherever that is,
he said. There was feverish excitement in his voice. A dull weight of fever lay on my limbs and on my brain as I followed him to the fair crystal pool with its pink-tinted sides. And he dropped the creature in. Falling, its scales fleshed with a hot orange gleam in its angry twistings and contortions. The moment it struck the liquid, it became rigid and sank heavily to the bottom. Then came the milky foam, the splendid hues radiating on the surface, and then the shaft of pure, serene light broke through from seemingly infinite depths. Boris plunged in his hand and drew out an exquisite marble thing, blue-veined, rose-tinted, and glistening with opalescent drops. Egg. To Ringerine, thank you for the egg.
child's play.
he muttered, and looked wearily, longing at me, as if I could answer such questions. But Jack Scott came in and entered into the game, as he called it, with ardor. Nothing would do but to try the experiment on the white rabbit then and there. I was willing that Boris should find distraction from his cares, but I hated to see the life go out of a warm, living creature, and I declined to be present. Picking up a book at random, I sat down in the studio to read. Alas, I had found The King in Yellow. After a few moments, which seemed ages, I was putting it away with a nervous shudder when Boris and Jack came in bringing their marble rabbit. At the same time, the bell rang above, and a cry came from the sick room. Boris was gone in a flash, and the next moment he called, "Jack, run to the doctor! Bring him with you! Alice, come here!" I went and stood at the door. A frightened maid came out in haste and ran away to fetch some remedy. Genevieve, sitting bolt upright with crimson cheeks and glittering eyes, babbled incessantly and insisted Boris' gentle restraint. He called me to help. At my first touch, she sighed and sank back, closing her eyes, and then, as we still bent over her, she opened them again, looked straight into Boris's face, poor, fever-crazed girl, and told her secret. At the same instant, our three lives turned into new channels. The bond that held us together so long snapped forever, and a new bond was forged in its place, for she had spoken my name, and as the fever tortured her, her heart poured out its load of hidden sorrow. Amazed and dumb, I bowed my head, while my face burned like a live coal, and the blood surged in my ears, stupefying me with its clamor. Incapable of movement, incapable of speech, I listened to her feverish words in an agony of shame and sorrow. I could not silence her. I could not look at Boris. Then I felt an arm upon my shoulder, and Boris turned a bloodless face to mine.
"It is not your fault, Alice. Don't grieve so if she loves you."
But he could not finish, and as the doctor stepped swiftly into the room, saying, "Ah, the fever!" I seized Jack Scott and hurried him to the street, saying, "Boris would rather be alone." We crossed the street to our own apartments, and that night, seeing I was going to be ill too, he went for the doctor again. The last thing I recollect with any distinctness was hearing Jack say, "For heaven's sake, doctor, what ails her to wear a face like that?" And I thought of the King in Yellow and the pallid mask. Yuri stays winning, kinda? We make it win. Sort of. We insert Yuri into the story. What happens after that, we can only hope will be positive. If I had a nickel for every story I'd hear in the past week with a creepy pool in it. That's a good point. I was very ill, for the strain of 2 years which I had endured since that fatal May morning, when Genevieve murmured, "I love you, but I think I love Boris best," told on me at last. I had never imagined that it could become more than I could endure. Outwardly tranquil, I had deceived myself. Although the inward battle raged night after night, and I, laying alone in my room, cursed myself for rebellious thoughts, unloyal to Boris and unworthy of Genevieve. The morning always brought relief, and I turned to Genevieve and to my dear Boris with a heart washed clean by the tempests of the night. Never in word or deed or thought, while with them, had I betrayed my sorrow, even to myself. If it isn't positive, that just makes it toxic Yuri. It could also be tragic Yuri, I think. Like, I feel like toxic has like a very specific volatile energy to it, whereas tragic is just sad. Now, certainly tragic, positive, those can exist together. Tragic and toxic, they can all exist together. But I think this one specifically, more so than toxic, is tragic. But maybe not. Maybe it's gonna have a happy ending. I feel like you could also have something like a roller coaster Yuri, where it's all of them. It keeps like switching, you know? Anyway, the mask of self-deception was no longer a mask for me. It was a part of me. Night lifted it, laying bare the stifled truth below. But there was no one to see except myself, and when the day broke, the mask fell back again of its own accord. These thoughts passed through my troubled mind as I lay sick, but they were hopelessly entangled with visions of white creatures heavy as stone crawling about in Boris's basin, of the wolf's head on the rug, foaming and snapping at Genevieve, who lay smiling beside it. I thought, too, of the king in yellow, wrapped in the fantastic colors of his tattered mantle, and that bitter cry of Casilda. Not upon us, O king, not upon us! Feverishly I struggled to put it from me, but I saw the lake of Hali, thin and blank, without a ripple of wind or wind to stir it, and I saw the towers of Carcosa behind the moon. Aldebaran, the Hyades, Alar, Hastur, glided through the cloud rifts which cluttered and flapped as they passed, like the scalloped tatters of the king in yellow. Among all these, one sane thought persisted. It never wavered, no matter what else was going on in my disordered mind, that my chief reason for existing was to meet some requirement of Boris and Genevieve. What this obligation was, its nature, was never clear. Sometimes it seemed to be protection, sometimes support, through a great crisis. Whatever it seemed to be for the time, its weight rested only on me, and I was never so ill or so weak that I did not respond with my whole soul. There were always crowds of faces about me, mostly strange, but a few I recognized, Boris among them. Afterward, they told me that this could not have been, but I know that once, at least, he bent over me. It was only a touch, a faint echo of his voice, and the clouds settled back on my senses, and I lost him. But he did stand there and bend over me, once, at least. Genevieve is suffering from bisexual madness, torn between a guy and a girl. So sad. Many such cases. Solution here is to force Boris and then to be a Yuri Truple. Too bad yours didn't discover the estrogen pool instead of the petrification pool. Man, so sad. That's the true horror, I think. That's a real tragic Yuri here, is that they can't be a Yuri Truple. The flesh homunculus. She returns, and looking spooky as ever. I'd argue I look a little bit spookier. Only a bit. I could have gone harder on the makeup, but I didn't want to try too much. You know what I mean? I thought in hindsight I should have done eyeshadow, but like all around my eye to create like a real socket look. And maybe I'll do this on break actually. The lines around the mouth, I should probably accentuate those more, make them a bit thicker lines. But yes, the flesh homunculus is here. Enjoy! Can you put a ray on the top left to match with the bottom right rays? Of course, we need that symmetry, sort of. It's only symmetry like this, not like this. Well, it's symmetry like this, which is kind of fun. I need the HT to give you the replica facial seams. I need the HT to just give you a complete mechanical face. I gotta be honest, big nitpick of mine, I love Signalis. I fucking love Signalis. I streamed it. You guys know I love it. Nitpick? I don't like robot designs where the face is just a human face with like some little bits, if even that. Come on, have a robot face. Have the full face. Now, of course, in Signalis it makes more sense because they are specifically replicated from humans. So it makes sense, and like it adds to the story that you see like these people that you then like. You're like, hey, aren't you like a replica though? And you know, makes sense. It makes sense there. But in other media, stupid. No reason for it. Love the makeup already. Those would be some nice touches. Yes, they would. Perhaps next time I'll do, I'll try the eyeshadow, spooky skeleton eye sockets. It's diagonal symmetry, non-Euclidean. Ah, the horrors! That's so true. It's on theme. It's on brand. Where was I? At last, one morning I awoke to find the sunlight falling across my bed, and Jack Scott reading beside me. I had not. It fucks me up that we still don't get that much information about Jack Scott. It's still such an outlier to me. At last, and also the fact that they keep saying his full name. Not always, but a lot. They don't do that with the others, only with Jack Scott. What's that about? I had not strength enough to speak aloud, neither could I think, much less remember, but I could smile feebly as Jack's eye met mine, and when he jumped up and asked eagerly if I wanted something, I could whisper, "Yes, Boris." Jack moved to the head of my bed and leaned down to arrange my pillow. I did not see his face, but he answered heartily, "You must wait, Alice. You were too weak to see even Boris." I waited, and I grew strong! I'm wearing a sweater so you can't see, but I'd totally be flexing and be so cool. It's such a big, strong arm. You just take my word for it. Jack Scott, Traffic Warlock. That sounds like fun. I have Rose, who's here sometimes. She has a Teacher of D character that's a superhero whose superpower is to use traffic signs as, like, incantations, essentially. You hold up a stop sign for someone, they stop. Very fun concept for a superhero. Flexing Queen is a valid alt name and is very hot. So true. I am her. I waited and I grew strong. In a few days I was able to see whom I would, but meanwhile I had thought and remembered. From the moment when all the past grew clear again in my mind, I never doubted that what I should do when the time came, and I felt sure that Boris would have resolved upon the same course so far as he was concerned. As for what pertained to me alone, I knew he would see that also, as I did. I no longer asked for anyone. I never inquired why no message came from them. Why, during the week I lay there, waiting and growing stronger, I never heard their names spoken. Preoccupied with my own searchings for the right way, and with my feeble but determined fight against despair, I simply acquiesced in Jack's reticence, taking for granted that he was afraid to speak of them, lest I should turn unruly and insist on seeing them. Meanwhile, I said over and over to myself, how would it be when life began again for us all? We would take up our relations exactly as they were before Genevieve fell ill. Boris and I would look into each other's eyes, and there would be neither rancor nor cowardice nor mistrust in that glance. I would be with them again for a little while in the dear intimacy of their home, and then without pretext or explanation, I would disappear from their lives forever. Boris would know. Genevieve, the only comfort was that she would never know. It seemed, as I thought it over, that I had found the meaning of that sense of obligation which had persisted all through my delirium, and the only possible answer to it. So, when I was quite ready, I beckoned Jack to me one day and said, "Jack, I want Boris at once. And take my dearest greetings to Genevieve." When at last he made me understand that they were both dead, I fell into a wild rage that tore all my little convalescent strength to atoms. I raved and cursed myself into a relapse, from which I crawled forth some weeks afterwards, a girl of 21, who believed that her youth was gone forever. I seemed to be past the capability of further suffering, and one day when Jack handed me a letter and the key to Boris's house, I took them without a tremor and asked him to tell me all. It was cruel of me to ask him, but there was no help for it. and he leaned warily on his thin hands to reopen the wound which could never entirely heal. He began very quietly. Alice, unless you have a clue that I know nothing about, you will not be able to explain any more than I what has happened. I suspect that you would rather not hear these details, but you must learn them, else I would spare you the relation. God knows I wish I could be spared the telling. I shall use few words. That day, when I left you in the doctor's care and came back to Boris, I found him working on the fates. Genevieve, he said, was sleeping under the influence of drugs. Medical, I assume, but maybe she's just cool like that. Hello, I've only heard of the King in Yellow in relation to Gravity Falls headcanons, but I've been meaning to read it for my own. Gravity Falls headcanons. I guess I can kind of get it, because the idea of... Can I talk about spoilers for Gravity Falls? Well, I'll just say I can kind of get it a little bit. You've been meaning to read it on your own? I'm reading it now. I'm enjoying it. I think it's great. There's a Gravity Falls headcanon connection? No way. That's interesting, isn't it, Triple? You should, like, read it. Or listen to me read it, actually. Much better. But I can understand. Again, I can't talk about it because I don't want to spoil people. But yeah, I can totally see how there might be a connection. Or, well, like, how they could be connected if they were connected, but I don't think they're connected. But maybe they were connected, who knows? Anyway, she had been quite out of her mind, he said. Oh no, wait, oh, this is Jack. She kept on working, not talking anymore, and I watched him. Before long, I saw that the third figure of the group, the one looking straight ahead, out over the world, bore his face. Not as you ever saw it, but as it looked then into the end. This is one thing for which I should like to find an explanation, but I never shall. Well, he worked, and I watched him in silence, and he went on that way until nearly midnight. Then we heard the door open and shut sharply, in a swift rush in the next room. Boris sprang through the doorway, and I followed him, but we were too late. She lay at the bottom of the pool, her hands across her breast. Then Boris shot himself through the heart. Jack stopped speaking. Drops of sweat stood under his eyes, and his thin cheeks twitched. I carried Boris to his room. Then I went back and let that hellish fluid out of the pool, and turning on all the water, washed the marble clean of every drop. When at length I dared descend the steps, I found her lying there as white as snow. At last, when I had decided what was best to do, I went into the laboratory and first emptied the solution into the basin into the waste pipe. I hope that's not going to be an issue. Putting this petrification juice just out there in the sewers. Anyway, wow, this is certainly tragic indeed. Sorry I'm late. I hope there's no cool spooky goth gals on stream. You're in peril. Then I poured the contents of every jar and bottle after it. There was wood in the fireplace, so I built a fire, and breaking the locks of Boris's cabinet, I burned every paper, notebook, and letter that I found there. With a mallet from the studio, I smashed to pieces all the empty bottles. Then, leading them into a cool scuttle, I carried them to the cellar and threw them over the red hot bed of the furnace. 6 times I made the journey, and at last not a vestige remained of anything which might again aid in seeking for the formula which Boris had found. Then at last I dared call the doctor. He is a good man, and together we struggled to keep it from the public. Without him, I never could have succeeded. At last we got the servants paid and sent away into the country, where old Roger keeps them quiet with stones of Boris's and Genevieve's travels in distant lands, from whence they will not return for years. We buried Boris in the little cemetery of Sèvres. Sèvres? The doctor is a good creature and knows when to pity a man who can bear no more. He gave his certificate of heart disease and asked no questions of me. Then, lifting his head from his hands, he said, "Open the letter, Alice. It is for us both." "You're in peril" is the most scary thing I could ever hear from Zoe's voice. Then I hope you clipped it, because then I'm very curious what it sounded like. I tore it open. It was Boris's will dated a year before. He left everything to Genevieve, and in case of her dying childless, I was to take control of the house in the Rue Saint-Cécile, and Jack Scott, the management at Ept. On our deaths, the property reverted to his mother's family in Russia, with the exception of the sculptured marbles executed by himself. These he left to me. The page blurred under our eyes, and Jack got up and walked to the window. Presently he returned and sat down again. I dreaded to hear what he was going to say, but he spoke with the same simplicity and gentleness. Genevieve lies before the Madonna in the marble room. The Madonna bends tenderly above her, and Genevieve smiles back into the calm face that never would have been except for her. His voice broke, but he grasped my hand, saying, "Courage, Alice." Next morning, he left for Ept to fulfill his trust. This is sad, Yuri. Wow. Chapter 4. It just keeps going. I feel like a lot of stories would just end there, honestly, but no. This is so fucking good. Like the first story I liked, this one's really good. I like this one so much. The same evening, I took the keys and went into the house I had known so well. Everything was in order, but the silence was terrible. Though I went twice to the door of the marble room, I could not force myself to enter. It was beyond my strength. I went into the smoking room and sat down before the spinet. A small lace handkerchief lay on the keys, and I turned away, choking. It was plain I could not stay, so I locked every door, every window, and the 3 front and back gates, and went away. Next morning, Alcides packed my valise, and leaving him in charge of my apartments, I took the Orient Express for Constantinople. During the 2 years that I wandered through the East, at first, in our letters, we never mentioned Genevieve and Boris, but gradually their names crept in. I recollect particularly a passage in one of Jack's letters replying to one of mine. What you tell me of seeing Boris bending over you while you lay ill, and feeling his touch on your face, and hearing his voice, of course, troubles me. This that you describe must have happened a fortnight after he died. I say to myself that you were dreaming, that it was part of your delirium, but the explanation does not satisfy me, nor would it you. Toward the end of the 2nd year, a letter came from Jack to me in India, so unlike anything that I'd ever known of him that I decided to return at once to Paris. He wrote, "I am well, and sell all my pictures as artists do who have no need of money. I have not a care of my own, but I am more restless than if I had. I am unable to shake off a strange anxiety about you. It is not apprehension, it is rather a breathless expectancy. Of what, God knows. I can only say it is wearing me out. Nights I dream always of you and Boris. I can never recall anything afterward, but I wake in the morning with my heart beating, and all day the excitement increases until I fall asleep at night to recall the same experience. I am quite exhausted by it, and have determined to break up this morbid condition. I must see you. Shall I go to Bombay, or will you come to Paris?" I telegraphed him to expect me by the next steamer. That's a boat! When we met, I thought he had changed very little. He insisted, looked in splendid health. It was good to hear his voice again, and as we sat and chatted about what life still held for us, we felt that it was pleasant to be alive in the bright spring weather. We stayed in Paris together a week, and then I went for a week up to Apt with him. But first of all, we went to the cemetery at Sèvres, where Boris lay. Shall we place the fates in a little grove above him? Jack asked, and I answered, I think only the Madonna should watch over Boris's grave. But Jack was none the better for my homecoming, the dreams of which he could not retain even the least definite outline continued, and he said that at times the sense of breathless expectancy was suffocating. You see, I do you harm and not good, I said. Try a change without me. So we started alone for a ramble among the Channel Islands, and I went back to Paris. I had not yet entered Boris's house, now mine since my return, but I knew it must be done. It had been kept in order by Jack. There were servants there, so I gave up my own apartment and went there to live. Instead of the agitation I had feared, I found myself able to paint there tranquilly. I visited all the rooms, all but one. I could not bring myself to enter the marble room where Genevieve lay, and yet I felt the longing growing daily to look upon her face, to kneel beside her. One April afternoon, I lay dreaming in the smoking room, just as I had lain 2 years before, and mechanically I looked among the tawny eastern rugs for the wolfskin. At last I distinguished the pointed ears and flat, cruel head, and I thought of my dream, where I saw Genevieve laying beside it. The helmets still hung against the threadbare tapestry, among them the old Spanish morion, a type of open helmet used from the middle 16th to early 17th century, usually having a flat brim and a crest from front to back. Think conquistador. Which I remember Genevieve had once put on when we were amusing ourselves with the ancient bits of mail, which is, when you make metal, or they make armor, it's mail, I turned my eyes to the spinet. Every yellow key seemed eloquent of her caressing hand, and I rose, drawn by the strength of my life's passion, to the sealed door of the marble room. The heavy doors swung inward under my trembling hands. Sunlight poured through the window, tipping with gold the wings of Cupid, and lingered like a nimbus over the brows of the Madonna, her tender face bent in compassion, over a marble form so exquisitely pure that I knelt and signed myself. Genevieve lay in the shadow under the Madonna, and yet through her white arms I saw the pale azure vein, and beneath her softly clapped hands the folds of her dress were tinged with rose, as if from some faint warm light within her breast. Bending with a breaking heart, I touched the marble drapery with my lips, then crept back into the silent house. A maid came and brought me a letter, and I sat down in the little conservatory to read it. But as I... Can you put a ray on the bottom line of rays, unrelated, but don't you think it would be cool if the two lines of rays met in the center of the screen? I mean, I can see how that could be cool, but I'm here. I feel like they would cross over me. Like, hold on, let me try to get this. Because I think if I were to do this, like, I'm here, like, wouldn't I get, like, kind of, like, covered up a little bit? The passage gave me chills. You're so good at this, boss. Thanks. I enjoy doing this. It's fun to be really melodramatic about a reading, And also, yes, that passage was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. There was an earlier passage, I forgot to mention it. The part where the protagonist finds out that Boris and Genevieve have died. that like I felt myself like getting emotional. It was really powerful. A maid came and brought me a letter, and I sat down in the little conservatory to read it. But as I was about to break the seal, seeing the girl lingering, I asked her what she wanted. She stammered something about a white rabbit that had been caught in the house, and asked what should be done with it. I told her to let it loose in the walled garden behind the house, and opened my letter. A white rabbit. It was from Jack, but so incoherent that I thought he must have lost his reason. White rabbit, we're in the Matrix! Or in Alice! Wonderland. Well, we're not in Wonderland yet, but if we let the rabbit go and follow it, we'll come to Wonderland. But so incoherent that I thought he must have lost his reason. It was nothing but a series of prayers to me not to leave the house until he could get back. He could not tell me why. There were the dreams, he said. He could explain nothing, but he was sure that I must not leave the house in the Rue Saint-Cécile. As I finished reading, I raised my eyes and saw the same maid-servant standing in the doorway holding a glass dish in which 2 goldfish were swimming. Put them back into the tank and tell me what you mean by interrupting me, I said. With a half-suppressed whimper, she emptied water and fish into an aquarium at the end of the conservatory and turned to me, asking my permission to leave my service. She said people were playing tricks on her, evidently with the design of getting her into trouble. The marble rabbit had been stolen, and a live one had been brought into the house. The 2 beautiful marble fish were gone, and she had just found those common live things flopping on the dining room floor. I reassured her and sent her away, saying I would look about myself. I went into the studio. There was nothing there but my canvases and some casts, except the marble of the Easter lily. I saw it on the table across the room, and I strode angrily over to it. But the flower I lifted from the table was fresh and fragile, and filled the air with perfume. Then suddenly I comprehended, and sprang through the hallway to the marble room. The doors flew open, the sunlight streamed into my face, and through it, in a heavenly glory, the Madonna smiled, as Genevieve lifted her flushed face from her marble couch, and opened her sleepy eyes. That's how it ends. Huh. She's alive, Yuri! Yay, this tragic Yuri has a happy ending. That's wonderful. But how surprising. Alternate joke. Maid caught Bugs Bunny? She's the most powerful character, yeah. How interesting that it has a... Yippee! It ends on a positive note, but it certainly leaves some questions. Oh no, what if the house is full of marble hornets? You're gonna get Slender Man. They're all gonna come to life. You're gonna get stung to death by regular hornets. But how interesting. Like, obviously there's the positive, which is that Genevieve is alive, and so Genevieve and the protagonist can be Yuri together. Is it a happy ending? Her husband, the one she loves more, is dead. Well, no, hold on a second. Because wasn't it that she... Hold on a second. I thought... hold on, because like, there was this part, I was very ill for the strain of 2 years, which I had endured since that fatal May morning when Genevieve murmured, I love you, but I think I love Boris best. No, that's harkening back to a different thing. It's not like there were 2 hours between that. Like, she said that, but then when she woke up from that illness, I think it's implied that she says that she actually likes the protagonist more. Right? That's what I think. Let's see. Genevieve. Okay, so during the first chapter, but after all was settled, and she had told me with tears in her eyes that it was Boris whom she loved. So yeah, 2 years ago, she said that to the protagonist, and then more recently, she, awoking from her sickness, she said that she actually loved the protagonist more. That's, I think, the implication. The wondering of what happens after in such a delicate situation brings a kind of horror, I think. Absolutely, but it's also... like, it's not entirely clear to me why Genevieve went into the pool. It's not impossible that she just wanted to have a soap, because again, you shouldn't fucking put your petrification juice in the pool. So maybe it's just an accident. But also, Jack being so insistent on the protagonist not leaving the house at all, for no reason, until he came back. That's weird to me. Because I don't think it would just be, oh, it's because Genevieve is gonna wake up, because how does Jack know that? And even then, you could go out for a second, right? So I really feel like there's more to this, you know? Maybe there's a lot of Draculas outside. Exactly! What if there's a bunch of Draculas outside? I'd be scared. Now, if there were a bunch of women Dracula outside... I'm pretty sure the implication with Alice finding the King in Yellow in Boris's house is that he was going mad from reading it. In his madness, he sought to preserve Genevieve, thinking she would die from her fever. No, because Jack was present in the room with Boris when she went into the pool. Unless Jack did it hoping that she would go into the pool, which would be fucked up. But maybe. Also, yes, hello, Azuri, like, I'm Real Queen, hi. Yeah, it's, I don't know, it's a good horror story leaves you with some questions, you know? Not the questions of, that didn't make any sense, what the fuck just happened, but like, I have a complete story, I have a full experience. What about this thing over here, though? What was this? I wonder. I don't need to know, but I could know. And that's what makes it compelling, you know? Good end. 5,000 Lady Draculas. Bad end. They're all cisheads. Fuck! Real Queen, unlike all those other queens, is real and not a digital boss. Correct. That is what sets me apart from the others. I think maybe Jack was traveling with something encased in marble and saw a D thaw and knew what it meant. Maybe, but then they should have told us. You know what I mean? But yeah, maybe. Who knows? Anyway, let me just go ahead and check how long the next story is. Oh, that's short. Alright. Next story. Actually, first off, next excerpt from The King in Yellow, the stage play. O thou who burn'st in heart for those who burn in hell, whose fires thyself shall feed in turn, how long be crying, mercy on them, God? Why, who art thou to teach and he to learn? Let's see. There's a little cliff note. Hey, I wanted to say how I'm envious of how long your hair is, and I hope mine can be as long eventually. And I almost said, Zoe, I want your hair! And God, oh my God, I got myself. I think I would have understood. Well, tips. Make sure you get the split ends cut. I know, okay, so I used to have way longer hair. I used to have hair like down to my butt. No joke. But it was awful. It was shitty. It was all split ends. You don't want that. It's not gonna look good. Plus, if you cut your split ends regularly, it'll actually help your hair grow faster. So, get your split ends cut. I know it can be tempting to just be like, well, if I cut my split ends, my hair's shorter, but it's good. You should do it. Take care of your hair. It's so hard to maintain. Yes, but you should do it. But thanks, guys, for the compliments. Thank you. I appreciate it. So let's see. It says here, an additional quatrain attributed to the Calcutta transcription of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, attributed to Omar Khayyam, who lived from 1048 to 1131, dubbed the astronomer poet of Persia. Supposedly, a notice was prefixed to the manuscript with the explanation that it arose from a dream in which Omar's mother asked about his future fate. What is the split end? I don't understand. Okay, so it's a little hard to explain, but honestly, I should probably go myself again at some point. Eventually, your hair, the end of your hair, will just kind of get a little shitty, a little bad, kind of go in some other directions and stuff. Kind of like literally like it splits sometimes. And at that point, it's just gonna look less nice, be less healthy and stuff. And your hair is just gonna not grow as much, because it's sort of like the hair goes, I'm done, this is my length. So if you get that cut, then it'll be like, oh, I have to start growing again. Oop, you know? All my hair is like that. Well, then you should go get a haircut. I'm getting better at taking my beak hair. It just tangles often. Yeah, that'll happen. I have the luck that I don't have. I've got like wavy hair. I don't have just flat hair. It looks like that sometimes, but usually it's more so like this. And I also don't have super curly hair, which looks beautiful, but it's much harder to maintain. I'm in like a good middle spot, I feel, you know? It took me years to get it as long as it is. I'd have to stop wearing a side-tie ponytail. Dude, Space Junk, I've been there. Again, my hair used to be down to my butt, and I had to like get it almost entirely cut to like here, and I had to start all over. But it's fucking worth it, because now I've got this hair, which is much nicer. Wait, what if Boris died, saw that Genevieve wasn't dead, and came back as a ghost, and sent Jack dream messages about it? Maybe! Maybe that's it. And maybe then, maybe the reason why Jack knew is because Boris went to Jack instead. My hair is wavier than yours. It's kind of a pain. There's way too much volume unless I get it professionally styled, which is a problem when my ideal hairstyle is literally just Elster. Yeah, well, there's hair straighteners you can use at home, you know? Maybe look into that. Although, if it's super wavy, then maybe that still wouldn't work. But, closer? Anyway, let's read this next one. In the Court of the Dragon. Dragons aren't traditionally something you find in horror stories, but we'll see. In the church of St. Burnaby, Vespers were over. The clergy left the altar. The little choir boys flocked across the chancel and settled in the stalls. A chancel, in the church, the area around the altar for the clergy and the choir, often enclosed or separated by a railing, lattice, or screen. That's chancel. And settled in the stalls. Swiss? French for Swiss or Switzerland. Oh, I see. A Swiss, in rich uniform, marched down the south aisle, sounding his staff at every fourth step on the stone pavement. Behind him came that eloquent preacher and good man, Monsieur... Okay, it says C, capital C, just capital C, and then just a cross line, just a line. Not a crossed out word, just nothing. My hair was near the chancel rail. I now turned toward the west end of the church. The other people between the altar and the pulpit turned too. There was a little scraping and rustling, while the congregation sealed itself again. The preacher mounted the pulpit stairs, and the organ voluntarily seized. I had always found the organ playing at St. Barnaby highly interesting. Learned and scientific it was, too much so for my small knowledge, but expressing a vivid, if cold, intelligence. Moreover, it possessed the French quality of taste. Taste reigned supreme, self-controlled, dignified, and reticent. Today, however, from the first chord I had felt a change for the worse, a sinister change. During Vespers it had been chiefly the chancel organ which supported the beautiful choir, but now and again, quite wantonly as it seemed, from the west gallery where the great organ stands, a heavy hand had struck across the church at the serene peace of those clear voices. It was something more than harsh and dissonant, and it betrayed no lack of skill. As it recurred again and again, it set me thinking of what my architect's books say about the custom in early times to consecrate the choir as soon as it was built, and that the nave, being finished sometimes half a century later, often did not get any blessing at all. I wondered idly if that had been the case at St. Barnaby, and whether something not usually supposed to be at home in a Christian church might have entered undetected and taken possession of the West Gallery. I had read of such things happening too, but not in works on architecture. Then I remembered that St. Barnaby was not much more than 100 years old, and smiled at the incongruous association of medieval superstitions with that cheerful little piece of 8th century Rococo. The dragon, historically, might allude to Vlad Tepes, aka Vlad the Impaler, aka Dracula! One of Vlad's many titles earned by his ruthless bloodthirst was the dragon. That's true, Polar Stars. You're right. Thanks for reminding me of that. An 1800s white writing affectation. Monsieur S. _ identifying without assigning a name. Really? How interesting. You would think that out of all the footnotes that they have in this book, they would have one for that. But interesting to know. Oh, remember Alice's feelings about some obligation to Boris and Genevieve? I gotta say, by the way, it's so funny that you guys like all have different ways of spelling Genevieve, and no one's gotten it right yet. Maybe that was Boris trying to send him dream messages, but he was so sick that he sent them to Jack instead. I could think that would be the case. Also her, yes, of course. 1 Dracula spotted. 4,999 remain. We're not ending the stream till we got them all. Genevieve, also a good try. But now, hold on. In this context, architecture that is extravagantly or excessively ornate, that is Rococo. But now Vespers were over, and there should have followed a few quiet chords, fit to accompany meditation. While we, excuse me, no, the camera didn't catch that. While we waited for the sermon, instead of ow, Rococo perfect. Yo, bro, my friend. Look, she's French. Of course, we can spell her name. No, you're right. I don't blame you guys. It's just fun. But instead of that, the discord at the lower end of the church broke out with the departure of the clergy, as if now nothing could control it. I belong to those children of an older and simpler generation who do not love to seek for psychological subtleties in art, and I have ever refused to find in music anything more than melody and harmony. But I felt that in the labyrinth of sounds now issuing from that instrument there was something being hunted. Up and down the pedals chased him, while the manuals blared approval. Poor devil, whoever he was, there seemed small hope of escape. My nervous annoyance changed to anger. Who was doing this? How dare he play like that in the midst of divine service? I glanced at the people near me. Not one appeared to be in the least disturbed. The placid brows of the kneeling nuns, still turned toward the altar, lost none of their devout abstraction under the pale shadow of their white headdress. The fashionable lady beside me was looking expectantly at Monseigneur. See. For all her face betrayed, the organ might have been singing an Ave Maria. But now, at last, the preacher had made the sign of the cross and commanded silence. I turned to him gladly. Thus far I had not found the rest I had counted on when I entered St. Barnaby that afternoon. I was worn out by 3 nights of physical suffering and mental trouble. The last had been the worst, and it was an exhausted body and a mind benumbed and yet acutely sensitive, which I had brought to my favorite church for healing. For I had been reading The King in Yellow. When we're at mass and the organist starts playing Flight of the Bumblebees, but everyone just rolls with it. It's a good song. It's nice. I love every single time in all 3 of these stories. It has been like blah 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 blah. I read The King in Yellow. It's so good. It's always like, oh, it's this thing. It's the book. The sun ariseth. They gathered themselves together and laid them down in their dens. Monseigneur C. delivered his text in a calm voice, glancing quietly over the congregation. My eyes turned, I knew not why, toward the lower end of the church. The organist was coming from behind his pipes and passing along the gallery on his way out. I saw him disappear by a small door that leads to some stairs which descend directly to the street. He was Slender Man. He was a slender man, and his face was as white as his coat was black. Just like Slender Man! Good riddance, I thought, with your wicked music and your pages. I hope your assistant will play the closing voluntary. With a feeling of relief, with a deep, calm feeling of relief, I turned back to the mild face in the pulpit and settled myself to listen. What if you were at... It didn't say pages, I added that part. What if you were at church and everything's normal, and then Slender Man is just playing the organ? What would you do? Like, what if, like, he looks like Slender Man? Like, you know, it's real tall, real thin, slender, in fact. Wears the suit, bald, long head, very pale. You can't see his face, though, because he's got his face turned towards the notes. Sheet music. So you don't know for sure. Is that Slender Man? Is this like a fucked up old man or something? Looks like Slender Man. You know, what would you do? Here at last was the ease of mind I longed for.
My children,
said the preacher,
one truth the human soul finds hardest of all to learn, that it has nothing to fear. It can never be made to see that nothing can really harm it.
Curious doctrine, I thought, for a Catholic priest. Let us see how he will reconcile that with the fathers.
Nothing can really harm the soul,
he went on, in his coolest, clearest tones.
Because...
But I never heard the rest. My eye left his face, I knew not for what reason, and saw the lower end of the church. The same man was coming out from behind the organ, and was passing along the gallery the same way. But there had not been time for him to return, and if he had returned, I must have seen him. I felt a faint chill, and my heart sank, and yet his going and coming were no affair of mine. I looked at him. I could not look away from his black figure and his white face. When he was exactly opposite to me, he turned and sent across the church straight into my eyes a look of hate, intense and deadly. I have never seen any other like it. It would, to God, I might never see it again. Then he disappeared by the same door through which I had watched him depart less than 60 seconds before. I said and tried to collect my thoughts. My first sensation was like that of a very young child badly hurt when it catches its breath before crying out. That's weird. Ray on top of the left. Ray on top left and match bottom right. Double check alignment. I shall do so. Let's see. Guess I can move these a little. Like so, I believe. My nose is so itchy. Now's not the time. Oh, my camera. I just go, whoa, I didn't know Simon was religious. I guess that tracks. That makes sense, yeah. Well, I'd have a few extra problems. How did I end up in a church? Am I about to get exorcised? If there's any truth to any of this stuff, then I'm about to catch fire. I can walk around a church just fine and look at me. And the things I've done. So I think you'll be fine. My nose began itching, for I... My nose began to itch, for I had just read The King in Yellow. To suddenly find myself the object of such hatred was exquisitely painful. And this man was an utter stranger. Why should he hate me so? Me, whom he had never seen before. For the moment, all other sensation was merged in this one pang. Even fear was subordinate to grief, and for that moment I never doubted. But in the next I began to reason, and a sense of the incongruous came to my aid. As I have said, St. Barnaby is a modern church. It is small and well lighted. One sees all over it almost at a glance. The organ gallery gets a strong white light from a row of long windows in the clerestory. In clerestory in architecture, a row of windows in the upper part of a wall, clear of outside roofs, that admits light to the central parts of the building. Nice. Why should he hate me so? Me, who is just a little guy? This dude literally went, man, fuck this shithead. I don't know. I'm so sick of him and his organ music. And then when the guy glares at him, he goes, surprise, Pikachu. Yeah, like, he's just a mind reader, dude. It's whatever. Oh, I thought it was gonna leave it at, to be the object of such hatred was exquisite. Like, oh, hell yeah, they're a freak. Let's go. That's me when I'm, like, just, like, walking around town or wherever, and there's, like, an old person who looks at me with absolute fucking disdain. It's like, yeah, what are you gonna do?
Egg.
World's changing. Change with it, bitch. And Space Ring, thank you very much for egg. Okay, so the organ gallery gets a strong white glare from a row of long windows in the clerestory, which had not even colored glass. The pulpit being in the middle of the church, it followed that, when I was turned toward it, whatever moved at the west end could not fail to attract my eye. When the organist passed, it was no wonder that I saw him. I had simply miscalculated the interval between his first and his second passing. He had come in at that last time by the other side door. As for the look which had so upset me, there had been no such thing, and I was a nervous fool. It's not real, don't worry about it, we're fine. I looked about. This was a likely place to harbor supernatural horrors. That clear-cut, reasonable face of Monseigneur C, his collected manner and easy, graceful gestures, were they not just a little discouraging to the notion of a gruesome mystery? I glanced above his head and almost laughed. That flyaway lady supporting one corner of the pulpit canopy, which looked like a fringed damask, woven fabric whose pattern is visible on both sides. A tablecloth in a high wind at the first attempt of a basilisk, in this context a mythical serpent that could kill by its breath or glance. To pose up there in the organ loft, she would point her gold trumpet at him and puff him out of existence. I laughed to myself over this conceit, which, at the time, I thought very amusing, and sat and chaffed myself and everything else. From the old harpy outside the railing, which had made me pay 10 centimes for my chair before she would let me in, she was more like a basilisk, I told myself, than was my organist with the anemic complexion. From that grim old dame to, yes, alas, Monseigneur C. himself, for all devoutness had fled. I had never yet done such a thing in my life, but now I felt a desire to mock. As for the sermon, I could not hear a word of it for the jingle in my ears of the skirts of St. Paul has reached, having preached as those 6 Lent lectures, more unctuous than ever he preached. I'm kind of losing the thread here. Gauntlet Queen looks like Gauntlet Queen? No way! Yeah, she's based on me! Can you believe it? Isn't that crazy? Slenderman hates me just because I read The King in Yellow and the Necronomic Communist Manifesto. Here's how we can fix our society with zombies. Keeping time to the most fantastic and irreverent thoughts. It was no use to sit there any longer. I must get out of doors and shake myself free from this hateful mood. I knew the rudeness I was committing, but still I rose and left the church. The spring sun was shining on the Rue Saint Honore, French. As I ran down the church steps, on one corner stood a barrel full of yellow jonquils, pale violets from the Riviera, dark Russian violets, and white Roman hyacinths in a golden cloud of mimosa. The street was full of Sunday pleasure seekers. I swung my cane and laughed with the rest. Someone overtook and passed me. He never turned, but there was the same deadly malignity in his white profile that had been there in his eyes. Wait, hold on, did I skip a page? Nope. I watched him as long as I could see him. His lithe back expressed the same menace. Every step that carried him away from me seemed to bear him on some errand connected with my destruction. This is a likely place to harbor supernatural horrors. Me when I pass by an Arby's. Me when I pass by, like... What? Me when I'm an American, I pass by a building that's like 50 years old. And one person died in. I was creeping along, my feet almost refusing to move. There began to dawn on me a sense of responsibility for something long forgotten. It began to seem as if I deserved that which he threatened. It reached a long way back. A long, long way back. It had lain dormant for all these years. It was there, though, and presently it would rise and confront me. But I would try to escape, and I stumbled as best I could into the Rue de Rivoli. Rue de Rivoli! Across the Place de la Concorde, and onto the quay. I looked with sick eyes upon the sun, shining through the white foam of the fountain, pouring over the backs of the dusky bronze river gods, on the faraway arc, a structure of amethyst mist, on the countless vistas of grey stems and bare branches faintly green. Then I saw him again coming down one of the chestnut alleys of the Cour de la Reine. Hey, that's rude. One person dying is optional. It can be more. It's fine if it's more. That's okay. More the better, honestly. I left the riverside, plunged blindly across to the Champs-Élysées, and turned toward the Arc. The setting sun was setting its rays along the green swards of the Rond Point. In the full glow, he sat on a bench, children and young mothers all around him. He was nothing, or about him. He was nothing but a Sunday lounger like the others, like myself. I said the words almost aloud. And all the while I gazed on the malignant hatred of his face. But he was not looking at me. I crept past and dragged my leaden feet up the avenue. I knew that every time I met him brought him nearer to the accomplishment of a purpose and my fate. And still I tried to save myself. The last rays of sunset were pouring through the great arc. I passed under it and met him face to face. I had left him far down the Champs-Élysées. And... Wow, gang! It's time for Estrogel. in a bit. We're gonna finish this little bit of story. Do 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 do.
Eggs.
Do 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 do. Ee. Got your mother in a whirl. She's not sure if you're a boy or a girl. Hey babe, your hair's alright. Hey babe, say it was okay, cool. Wow, gang. Wow. One more raid before the break. Bottom right, you got it. Right there. They're starting to get awfully close to my face, though, gotta say. Real costs up on eggs. No, we totally aren't, because KQ Gray redeemed an egg. Thank you. So, it is now 9 p.m. over here, which means I'm gonna do my Astrogel, which means we're gonna take a 20 or so minute break. For me to do that, we're gonna be listening to music, as you can tell. During this time, if you guys have any medicine that you have to take, please remember to do so. Remember to stay hydrated, very important. Also get some snackies, stretch your leggies. Generally just take care of yourself, you know. And we'll be back to read more of this one after the break. I gotta say, this one got started with the spooky stuff a whole lot faster. I wonder where it's going, you know? I'm very curious. How it's Slenderman. It's Slenderman with a face. That's so scary. Imagine if Slenderman had a face and he could be angry at you. Ugh. Anyway, see you guys in a bit. Hello! Look, I did the mouth lines. I did them a bit stronger so they're more noticeable. I think it's nice. Bumping the socials. And over here. There we go. Anyway, hi gang, welcome back. There's a skeleton on stream, it's so true. A skelly girl. I'm all bones. And,
Hi!
what are things about skeletons? There's actually, like, inside the bones, it's like soft stuff and nerves and things. Isn't that crazy? I'm a very nervous skeleton. These special effects are so realistic. We used the entire budget for it, so don't expect like me to do literally anything else for the rest of the year. Sippy, I'll take a sippy. Thank you, Polar Stars. Thank you. It's you can kind of see like all the lipstick markings on the cup. I used to have it with a straw, but then I broke it. So now it's just a big cup to drink from, like a cup. But also I need to know, since my assumption about the hatred being exquisite line, I can't but think of the PvP character as Sedeya Robotnik. I feel like you would say something like that. Nothing else for the rest of the stream. No Golden Queen Xmas stream. Oh, but don't worry. We are going to do a watch of the Hogfather in the Discord. That's a fun little surprise. That's a little sneak peek. That's a little fun little sneak peek for y'all. Is the Hogfather is a 2-part mini series encompassing like a total of like 2.5 hours or so. Live action adaptation of Terry Pratchett's Discworld's book, The Hogfather, which is one of my favorite Christmas stories. It is wonderful. It is so good. I mean, the book is better, of course, but you know. So we'll be watching that in the Discord. I want to share that with you all, so that'll be a good time. This story is Robotnik X Slenderman Yaoi in my mind. Toxic Yaoi, of course. Karakat, I support that. I love that. I will not be doing a Robotnik voice. Sorry. So to me it will not be such. But you may think so, and I think that's wonderful. Where were we? So if you are just joining us also, we are now reading the 3rd story of The King in Yellow, which is an anthology of horror stories. We just had the 2nd one, The Mask, which was really fucking good. And now we're reading In the Court of the Dragon, which is, well, I don't know how it's gonna be that yet. It's mostly been about a guy who sits at church and then he sees Slenderman, and Slenderman's really angry at him, so then he starts following around Slenderman for some reason. Currently, Slenderman is sitting in a park somewhere, and our protagonist is like, ooh, I'm gonna get close. Let's see. The last rays of sunset were pouring through the great arc. I passed under it and met him face to face. I'd left him far down the Champs-Élysées, and yet he came in with a stream of people who were returning from the Bois de Boulogne. He came so close that he brushed me. His slender frame felt like iron inside its loose black covering. He showed no signs of haste, nor of fatigue, nor of any human feeling. His whole being expressed one thing: the will and the power to work me evil. To work me evil. Fun sentence. And rage my pages. In anguish, I watched him where he went down the broad, crowded avenue that was all flashing with wheels and the trappings of horses and the helmets of the Garde Républicaine. It's French. It's French. There's a lot of French in this story. Turn off the break music. Oh, sorry. Thank you. And I also forgot to turn on the scary dark music. But thank you, Bullet Stars. He was soon lost to sight. Then now I feel like there's something missing. Now I hear this music and now I'm in the right mood. Collect my hedgehogs. He was soon lost to sight. Then I turned and fled into the bois and far out beyond it. I know not where I went, but after a long while, as it seemed to me, night had fallen, and I found myself sitting at a table before a small cafe. I had wandered back into the bois. I don't know what that is. It was hours now since I had seen him. Physical fatigue and mental suffering had left me no power to think or feel. I was tired, so tired. I longed to hide away in my own den. I resolved to go home, but that was a long way off. I live in the Court of the Dragon, a narrow passage that leads from the Rue des Reines to the Rue du Dragon. It is an impasse, traversable only for foot passengers. Over the entrance on the Rue des Reines is a balcony supported by an iron dragon. Within the court, tall old houses rise on either side and close the ends that give on the two streets. Huge gates, swung back during the day into the walls of the deep archways, closed its court after midnight, and one must enter then by ringing at certain small doors on the side. The sunken pavement collects unsavory pulls. Steep stairways pitch down to doors that open on the court. The ground floors are occupied by shops of second-hand dealers and by iron workers. All day long the place rings with the clink of hammers and clang of metal bars. Unsavory as it is below, there is cheerfulness and comfort, and hard, honest work above. Unlike those iron workers, who do not work hard nor honest, I guess. 5 flights up are the ateliers, workshops or studios, if you don't know, of architects and painters, and the hiding places of middle-aged students like myself who want to live alone. When I first came here to live, I was young and not alone. I had to walk a while before any conveyance appeared, but at last, when I had almost reached the Arc de Triomphe again, an empty cab came along, and I took it. From the Arc to the Rue de Rennes is a drive of more than half an hour, especially when one is conveyed by a tired cab horse that has been at the mercy of Sunday fete makers, partygoers, persons celebrating, likely outdoors. Thank you, footnote. There had been a time before I passed under the dragon's wings to meet my enemy over and over again, but I never saw him once, and now refuge was close at hand. Before the White Gateway, a small mob of children were playing. Our concierge and his wife walked among them, with their black poodle keeping order. Some couples were waltzing on the sidewalk. I returned their greetings and hurried in. All the inhabitants of the court had trooped out into the street. The place was quite deserted, lighted by a few lanterns hung high up, in which gas burned dimly. My apartment was at the top of a house, halfway down the court, reached by a staircase that descended almost into the street, with only a bit of passageway intervening. I set my foot on the threshold of the open door. The friendly old ruinous stairs rose before me, leading up to rest and shelter. Looking back over my right shoulder, I saw him 10 paces off. He must have entered the court with me. He was coming straight on, neither slowly nor swiftly, but straight on to me. And now he was looking at me. For the first time since our eyes encountered across the church, they met now again. Ow. And I knew that the time had come. Retreating backward down the court, I faced him. I meant to escape by the entrance of the Rue du Dragon. His eyes told me that I could never escape. It seemed ages while we were going, I retreating, he advancing, down the court in perfect silence, but at last I felt the shadow of the archway, and the next step brought me within it. I had meant to turn here and spring through into the street, but The shadow was not that of an archway, it was that of a vault. The great doors on the Rue de Dragon were closed. I felt this, by the blackness which surrounded me, and at the same instant I read it in his face, how his face gleamed in the darkness, drawing swiftly nearer. The deep vaults, the huge closed doors, their cold iron clamps were all on his side. The thing which he had threatened had arrived. It gathered and bore down on me from the fathomless shadows. The point from which it would strike was his infernal eyes. Hopeless, I sat back against the barred doors and defied him. And then there's a big pause. Big empty space. And hi Mulgado! How you doing? Thanks for the egg. I have this. Okay, when I like happy wave as a VTuber, I go like bye. But I feel like I shouldn't close my eyes in like when it's just me. I feel like that doesn't look as good. How silly, how odd. But a force of habit now. There was a scraping of chairs on the stone floor and a rustling as the congregation rose. I could hear the Swiss staff in the south aisle preceding Monseigneur C to the sacristy. Ow. Jules, hi! Hi Jules, how are you? Oh, it's so fun to see you. Paint fake eyes on your eyelids. That solves the issue clearly. Sure, I could, but I've already got like thick like eyeliner, so I feel like that wouldn't work as well. Hi, good. Hi, you look wonderful. Thank you. I worked very hard on my makeup today. I do think it looks. I just realized I need to put my accessories back on. What am I doing? I'm all. I could look so much more wonderful. I had taken them off because I was doing my gel, of course. Very important. But yeah, this is the first time that I've got like such thick eyeliner under my eye, as well as these lines on my mouth. But I kind of fucking love it, and I might just start doing that. Ow. Even when it's not for a Spooktober occasion, you know. I'm going to learn. Thanks so much, Mole, for subscribing. I hope the book has been awesome. It has. We've been enjoying it a lot. The thick underline eyeliner looks amazing, actually. Doesn't it, though? I think it looks really nice. So I'm definitely gonna keep doing that. This one we'll see. I've like often had like very thin eyeliner under my eye, underline eyeliner, but this is much better. There we go. There was a scraping of chairs on the stone floor, and a rustling as the congregation rose. I could hear the Swiss staff in the south aisle preceding Monseigneur C to the sacristy, a room in any church where sacred vessels and vestments are kept, and where a priest prepares for a service. The kneeling nuns, roused from their devout abstraction, made their reverence and went away. The fashionable lady, my neighbor, rose also, with graceful reserve. As she departed, her glance just flitted over my face in disapproval. Half dead, or so it seemed to me, yet intensely alive to every trifle, I sat among the leisurely moving crowd, then rose too and went toward the door. I had slept through the sermon. Had I slept through the sermon? I looked up and saw him passing along the gallery to his place. Only his side I saw. The thin, bent arm on its black covering looked like one of those devilish, nameless instruments which lie in the disused torture chambers of medieval castles. But I had escaped him, though his eyes had said I should not. Had I escaped him? that which gave him the power over me came back out of oblivion, where I had hoped to keep it, for I knew him now. Death and the awful abode of lost souls, whither my weakness long ago had sent him. They had changed him for every other eye, but not for mine. I had recognized him almost from the first. I had never doubted what he was come to do. And now I knew, while my body sat safe in the cheerful little church, he had been hunting my soul in the court of the dragon. I crept to the door. The organ broke out overhead with a blare. A dazzling light filled the church, blotting the altar from my eyes. The people faded away, the arches, the vaulted roof vanished. I raised my seared eyes to the fathomless glare, and I saw the black stars hanging in the heavens, and the wet winds from the lake of Hali chilled my face. And now, far away, over leagues of tossing cloud waves, I saw the moon dripping with spray, and beyond, the towers of Carcosa rose behind the moon. Death, and the awful abode of lost souls, whither my weakness long ago had sent him, had changed him for every other eye but mine. And now I heard his voice, rising, swelling, thundering through the flaring light, and as I fell, the radiance increasing, poured over me in waves of flame. Then I sank into the depths, and I heard the King in Yellow whispering to my soul, "It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God." That's, that one. That's how it ends. This one and the last one ends so... I mean, this one's like real short. This is like a short story. It's only... Does it say 10 pages? This is... whoa! This one ends at 70, almost 69. 70... Starts at... So this one is 9 pages long. So this was a real short one. So this person read The King in Yellow and died. I guess. Still very nicely written. Can't take as much out of it as the previous one, you know? There's not as much of a build-up to the scariness of it. But it's still nice. It certainly adds to the overarching horror of The King in Yellow itself. He spoke in this one. That's fun. Now let's see. I really need to get a yellow sign emote. Well, fun you should mention that, Arterial, because the next chapter, the next story, is called The Yellow Sign. But it's looking to be, let's see. That's a much longer one, I think. And we have been going for almost 3 hours, which usually, of course, my streams tend to go for 3.5. But constantly reading a book takes, you wouldn't think it. You would think that, like, a book that's so much simpler than playing a video game. But it actually takes more out of me because I have to, like, constantly be reading, you know what I mean? The Yellow Sign is probably the longest still in the tome, and one of the most complex. Oh, fun. One of the longest, though? I feel like the Repair of Reputations is the longest. Let's see. Oh, yeah, dude, that's like... Repair of Reputations is like twice as long. It's not as long. But I am very curious about it because I have heard that it's like one of the best. You're putting the whole pussy into it, boss. I fucking am, dude. I would never give you guys a half-assed performance. When I have to like... when I have to do like a reading for you guys, always. I will always put my pussy into it. For you. So, I'm thinking... I'm thinking we'll end this one here. We read 2 stories. They were very, very nice. I think oh, thank you for the CPS Steam Tester. And a stretching pulse check, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, overall, I obviously liked The Mask better. It was just a more complete story while still being pretty short, you know, nice length. I think I liked the beginning of The Court of the Dragon more. I feel like it didn't really nail the landing as much, I suppose. Although, I mean, there was certainly like a scare of the Okay, now I'm thinking, right? So, let's go back to makeup glove rules. Thanks! Isn't it nice? Like, thickening these lines really helps make them pop more. So, I'm thinking, like, okay, saw Slenderman, death, exit from the organ, leave, look and like catch our protagonist's eyes. They looked at each other in the eyes, right? And then after that, our protagonist saw them leave again. I'm thinking that glare is what put the protagonist in some sort of trance. Because later on, they wake up and then the sermon ends and everybody leaves and stuff. So I think that the entire time, the protagonist was actually sleeping through the stuff, and in a sort of mind space, like in not in the real world, right? In some metaphysical space, that's where he was being chased by death. Because he says, let's see. Where was it? Now I knew while my body sat safe in the cheerful little church, he had been hunting my soul in the court of the dragon. So, he was asleep and so he wasn't really leaving the church, he was still there. So his soul was having this cat and mouse game with death. And when death got him, he woke up. Because this is that break, right? Gets got, wakes up, gets dragged to hell. That's what it is, I think. But did he get dragged off to hell because he wrote The King in Yellow, or was it simply his time? You know? Extra ironic, as the priest was preaching that nothing can harm the soul. That is extra ironic, you're right, that's good. That's nice. The revelation that Slenderman was capital D death should have happened right at the end, I think. It did happen very close to the end, right? Where did it happen exactly? Yeah, it happens down here. And then at the next page, this is all that's left. So it's very close to the end still. So I'll give him that. I'm sure it's very deep and poetic, but I don't have spoons to analyze it right now. That's fair. That's valid. I do think it's, for me at least, thinking about it more now, I like it. I like it more. I think it's good. It's got sort of a Nightmare on Elm Street kind of feel to it, you know? Like, what's the reality, what isn't? Which, by the way, the first Nightmare on Elm Street, I've said this before, it fucking holds up. That is such a good horror movie. Like, it is... I won't spoil if you haven't seen it, which I honestly feel like a lot of people probably haven't. Like, I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, it is very well known in the public consciousness, but I feel like a lot of people from like our generation and below probably don't actually know it. You know, they haven't seen it. I can recommend the first movie a lot. It's really good. It is a kind of horror that you think you get it. You think you get what's scary about it and stuff. Like, oh yeah, it's a guy introduced, kills you. And then you watch it, and the more you pay attention and the more you think about it, the more you go, oh, right. You know, like the scarier the concept becomes. It's really well done. It happened like at the climax near the end, but I think it should happen right at the end. Yeah, no, I agree actually, yeah, because it's like, it was death, and then talking, and then I get dragged into hell, and the King of Yellow is there, and it's like, if you had, we knew he was death, we were waiting for this, we got it, you know, like if you had waited a little bit more, and then he gets dragged into death, and it's then that he realizes, that would have been good. I read it very differently. He read The King in Yellow, so it changed his perception of the world that one wrong note on the organ and one bad dream scared him to death. I could also see it being as like, because it changed his perception of the world, he was able to see death, because he talks about that a lot, right? That he is able to see death for who he is, unlike everybody else. I was thinking that's because death is coming for him, but it could also be that it's about, that death chooses to kill him because he can see him. Right? Maybe? But yeah, I think it's very well possible that like he is able to see death because of the King in Yellow. Who knows? And it wasn't one wrong note, it was like a bunch, wasn't it? From the first court I had felt a change for the worse, a sinister change. During Vespers it had been chiefly the chancel organ which supported the beautiful choir, but now and again, quite wantonly as it seemed, from the west gallery where the great organ stands, a heavy hand had struck across the church at the serene peace of those clear voices. Okay, so multiple false notes. It was something more than harsh and dissonant, and it betrayed no lack of skill. As it recurred again and again, it set me thinking of what my architect's books say about the custom in early times to consecrate the choir as soon as it was built, and that the nave, being finished sometimes half a century later, blah, 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 blah. But now Vespers were over, and there should have followed a few quiet chords fit to accompany meditation, while we waited for the sermon. Instead of that, the discord at the lower end of the church broke out with the departure of the clergy, as if nothing could control it. Okay, so it starts off with random false notes, and then suddenly it's just a cacophony. And nobody else notices. Their eyes met, so Death knew he could see him for what he was, and he had to kill him. Exactly, yes, that is the idea I had, yes. That was my reading of it. I kind of love that Death is lurking in the church and no one can perceive him. It's good. I like it a lot. It also... Oh... No, I don't know if this... Simbera, thank you for the egg. I don't know if this is true, but... There's a person playing the organ. And sometimes there's a false note. It doesn't portray a lack of skill, but it might portray a skill, like it doesn't portray a lack of skill, but it might betray old age. Then there is suddenly like a cacophony of noise, as if someone is really struggling. Then Death walks away from the organ. So maybe the organ player died, and like Death came to kill the organ player, but nobody else can hear it because nobody else can hear the goings-ons of Death, right? Because why else would the organ do that, right? Like, is Death just fucking up the organ playing for fun? Why is he even playing the organ? I said it earlier this stream. I love a horror story that has like all of the clear lines, but it's got all these little bits. You don't need to know what they are. It's not bad that you don't know, and it just leaves you to speculate on them, you know? I like it. Fun. So we got 3 stories down. So that's 7 more to go. Again, it would be nice if this book had a, Death takes the organ player and leaves, then comes back for the protagonist. I again feel like that the protagonist was just like in a mindscape, like from the moment that they lock eyes. But maybe he like literally comes back for him. Oh wait, here it is. I found it. Yay! I was blind before. I was blind and stupid. Theoretically, anyone else who had read The King in Yellow would have seen him and been next. Yeah, I would say so. Am I next? I better not go into any churches. Even though they're such pretty buildings. So we've got the yellow sign, which is about 15 pages. Then the demoiselle these, which is like 20. The Prophet's Paradise, the Street of the Four Winds. Prophet's Paradise being exactly 10. Streets of the Four Winds, also 10. The Street of the First Shell being 40. That's a lot more. And then Rue Barré being also a significant amount. I could not see it before, but then I read The King in Yellow and my eyes were opened to the true reality of the world. And the contents page. The more you read of The King in Yellow, the more you cover its terrible, terrible secrets. Anyway, this has been my second stream reading The King in Yellow. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it was fun. I hope it was good. I hope you liked my reading of it. But reading a lot, it tires me out. And now I have to take a break. So, my next stream is a mystery. But is it though? I might just already know and I might be able to tell you guys. Give me just a little second. Let me click away from that Yuri tab. My next stream is not yet set in stone. Thank you kindly. I'm sorry I missed the first one. No need to apologize, Ethereal. Plus, you can always go back on the YouTube channel and watch it there. If you do a little exclamation point link in chat, you get a link that leads to my website, and on the website you can find all the things you want. Including both my VOD YouTube channel and my Clips YouTube channel. Yay, isn't that nice? Amazing stream, boss. Your reading voice is so good, and your outfit made me envious of your my OJ class. This? Oh, cause I put my lips on the glass. I get it. That is so smooth. I'm dumb. I'm stupid. Anyway, thank you. I'm so glad you. I'm glad people compliment what I look like. It's nice. And I'm glad that I've become like confident enough in what I look like, you know? Which I'm sure is in no small part because you guys support me so much. But yes, next week it should be the Splatoon Halloween event. And if that is the case, then I will be streaming that on Tuesday. If not, or something else. And maybe I even won't. Anyway, I don't know what I'm gonna stream. Splatoon, hopefully. And if I do, it might be with you guys. Who knows? But yes, exclamation with links in chat, and you get a little link to my website where you can find everything you want. Obviously, the socials are the best place to follow me. I've got a Blue Sky also, in case you didn't know that. That one's popping off right now. Oh, I died. But for now, we're going to find someone to raid. So I would like you guys to think about a raid message. Probably something about that we went insane or whatever. You know how it is. Well, you look great and you get to show off your Halloween makeup too. I do. It's very fun. I love that I did this. It's very nice. Let me have a look. Some good options. Oh, hey, I never get to raid Jody. Jody's always out raiding me. I'll go ahead and raid Jody. Jody is playing web fishing, which is a you know, like Animal Crossing fishing? What if it was just that, but it was like an entire like a game and it was multiplayer? That's what it is, as far as I can tell. The Blue Sky link in your card just links back to card. Oh shit, I should probably fix that. But I'm Gauntlet Queen on Blue Sky, so you can find me that way. But thanks for letting me know. If you saw Slenderman in church playing the organ, what would you do? Have you seen the... Okay, we haven't gotten to the yellow sign yet. So we'll do Slenderman in church playing the organ. I'm gonna make it, would that be fucked up or what? So let's do that one. And we're gonna raid Jody. Now, many of you, of course, know Jody. Jody is a dear friend of mine who often we haven't collabed together as well. She's a rabbit mechanic. Very cool, very nice, and doing some fishing right now. Yay! And also has like an open call, so I'm probably just gonna go over there and hang out, so we can hang out some more. All right. See you later, gang. Bye bye. Bye bye.